and welcome to the Skillwork Forum, where we get together and talk about ways to help business leaders and companies overcome the skilled labor challenges we're all facing in the country today. So I'm Tim. I'm joined with my partner Brett here for Skillwork. And today we're going to be talking about something we hear quite often, and actually it's something that's been maybe a little bit of a surprise to us, Brett, and that's that we hear often from some of our clients we work with that maybe even a bit sarcastically, we just want somebody to show up, just reliable, just get there, clock in, even if they don't have the skills that we would desire, but they're just frustrated by this lack of commitment and people just showing up and doing the job. And whether they consciously or subconsciously, what they're actually doing is kind of lowering their standards a little bit. And that really has a lot of implications across their workforce because, whether you're able to solve it by doing this or take another route, you really are costing your company business. And we think there's probably a smarter way to go about that.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's, I think, exactly what companies have done. I spent 30 years in the food manufacturing space, and during that time, had the opportunity or privilege or challenge to start two businesses during that time. And while managing cost is critical, I also learned early on that, we weren't going to save our way to a profit. That, we had to invest and grow ourselves to a profit if we were going to remain, relevant and viable, to our clients. So what we really discovered was that lowering the bar on our new hires actually cost us much more in the long run. And so it's kind of like you said, Tim, companies almost scoff at the idea that we can find them talent. It's kind of unfortunate that they've almost given up on that to the point where it's just like, hey, I just need people to show up. So, at Skillwork, we discovered that once companies really reflect on the cost of lowering their bar, the choice to demand high qualified talent with character and work ethic was a no-brainer. So, we always kind of say, it really comes down to really just two things. If your company has the opportunity to grow, if you had the right people, then what are my options to find that talent? So,
yeah, I think that is correct. This idea of lowering the bar.
Yep.
And I think a lot of companies have done it just over time, just because the challenge has been so difficult to be able to find qualified and competent workers to be able to advance your company and meet your deadlines and new projects and so forth. That combined with the seemingly shift in mindset that we've seen in worker mentality, we'll talk a little bit about that as well, that there is a different just in mentality in workers where maybe when you and I, the world we came up in, it was, of course you're going to show up and you're going to be at work. Mm-hmm. And the idea of not showing up or walking out or just, we've talked about ghosting in other podcasts, that just wasn't a thing that was in our lexicon. But we see that more and more today. So it's really was interesting to us. So we thought we'd discuss today this idea like, I just want people to show up. It's less about the skills and more about mindset and personality. So we really believe that and we've talked about it in our 8-step process that we use at Skillwork. We actually focus first on that personality and the aptitude of that skill worker, and really we're constantly chasing down how do we understand in our process of vetting what's the makeup and mindset of that individual that we're going to actually have a reliable, dependable guy show up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As we know, Tim, it's twofold. I think for companies, I think they, it's like a lot of things, kind of when we let things creep into our life that aren't necessarily good for us, that it doesn't happen overnight. It kind of happens slowly, and that's kind of what's happened in companies. Right. Little by little, you've lowered the bar and lowered the bar and lowered the bar. Now, for companies, I think they've primarily lowered the skill set bar, because they can't find the skills. So now they're just looking, as they say, for a warm body type of thing. we have been able to, through the 8-step process that you mentioned a minute ago, we've been able to solve the skill piece. Now we're really focused in on the reliability, the commitment, the character.
Yes.
Because that's ultimately, you got to have both.
You do have to have both, and it used to be people that were looking for new candidates were focused almost exclusively on skills.
Yep.
Because it was a given that the mentality was going to be there. And so, as you mentioned, this picture of, you boil a frog, you've heard the story, maybe you haven't. So for any PETA people out there, forgive me in advance, send all the emails to Brett on complaints. But so boiling a frog, the story has it, and I think Brett used to do this all the time. I don't know, you'll have to. But you put a frog in water at tepid temperature, and you turn up the temperature slowly, and the frog doesn't realize that the water temperature is going to the point where, you boil the frog. So the idea that you don't realize over time that this is happening to you. So I think you're absolutely right. So when we talk to companies, and maybe you're out there experiencing it now, that we can't find the guys with the skills, and not only that, but we can't get the guys to even show up that don't have the skills. So we convince them, and it's part of our what we do best is we can find the guys with the skills.
Absolutely.
So we can help you overcome at least that. And then the second issue is the guys that have the skills and the right aptitude and personality.
Yeah. You got to have them. They got to go hand in hand. We talk a little bit about it too. It's debatable. Everybody likes to say, this generation, whether it's the millennial generation or I don't know, Gen Z, whatever the latest one is of people coming into the workforce. I think it's Gen Z, and so that they've changed, and so I'm not 100% convinced that it's just a generational thing. I think as a culture and as a society, we've all changed in that we expect everything very quickly. It's the internet and Amazon have all taught us those kind of things. So I think there's just a shift overall in what employees are looking for in a job, and you have to factor all of this in and kind of vet some of that out as you look to find the right talent, that then also has the right, character or aptitude.
I think you're right, and I don't think it is a generational thing, and I believe we're learning this more and more, that we thought, well, we're going to be attracting younger workforce into our model, and we're going to have to deal with this lack of commitment, that they like to be mobile and moving, but we're seeing that across all ages, this idea of, like kind of seemingly lack of permanence. So trying to get that commitment, and again, I think it's where our model helps overcome this, because by the nature of our business model, our workers that we hire, there are permanent workers, but their assignment is more short-term in duration. So they know there's going to be this, end date, start date, and of course, sometimes that turns into a long-term commitment depending on the location. So, I think it is a generational. It's a change in the workforce and mentality that also has to be factored in. But one of the other things I think we'll touch on here is this idea that it's a given that it's hard to find guys with the right skills, and that's just a function of supply and demand. We've done a good job of figuring that out. But the idea of us trying to understand a candidate's aptitude and personality, and what we do to kind of delve into those things. You mentioned it briefly, Brett. So, when you talk about personality of a candidate, what comes to mind when I say somebody's personality to you?
Well, as you said, there's as we're doing a book study now on integrity, and really, it really comes down a lot to that. When this book goes into much more depth than most of us think of. When you think of integrity as just somebody that does the right thing, or has the right moral character, but there's some deeper pieces into that, to somebody that's really, as in that book, he talks about, what kind of a wave are you leaving, kind of thing. And those are the kind of people. So when you find people that that want to be part of something, that want to embrace in something, and be part of that team. Obviously, in our model, Tim, as you know, we give them that opportunity. As you know, we call it work plus freedom, and so, but there's a key that it's work plus freedom. We
Right.
need them to enjoy work and to embrace work and embrace the opportunity to help these clients that we have. As one of our key principles is, we measure our success by the number of people we help, and it's both our skill worker in the field and our clients. And so we have to match those, and that character, because it doesn't matter how good your skills are, if you don't show up for work and have a good attitude, it just never works.
Yeah, I agree. I think character is a good way to put it. And by the way, that book that Brett mentioned, Integrity, just to give credit where credit's due, is Dr. Henry Cloud. It's a great book. We're reading it here together. And it is a far deeper and more nuanced topic, integrity. So I think that's a great way to capture personality is what's your makeup and, how are you wired? How do you go about doing the job? What's your drive, commitment, that sort of thing. And the other thing we look at, too, to help us try to solve this, are they going to show up and be reliable? Is, what's their aptitude? Do they have the actual, ability, innate ability or talent to do the type of work we're putting them into? So a lot of times you put a square peg in a round hole. If a person doesn't have that aptitude or that talent to do that job, that also causes a lack of commitment because frustration ensues. There's another opportunity down the road, so off they go. So we try to measure, hey, how are you made up, and what are your skill sets, what are your strengths, and we try to marry those two. Our candidate to your opening, to your company, so that we get somebody reliable and able to do the job. Reliable, consistent workers, that's crucial. Difficult to evaluate. That's what we do day in and day out. Frankly, we're kind of obsessed with finding out how to do that the very best we can so that we get you the type guys you need to solve the problem. That's what we specialize in. Involves a lot of vetting, a lot of multi-level vetting, a lot of process that we do. We take off your plate so you can focus on running your business and figuring out the right guy at the right time to fit your needs so that you don't have to worry about guys that are going to show up on a Monday morning when you've got a busy day. So that's really kind of what this topic is all about. Any final thoughts, Brett, before we wrap up today?
I think just, I would just encourage, whether you're a business owner or whether you're, running a business or you have any kind of an active role in that decision making, which hopefully you do, is to really kind of sit down and think about, what are we accepting in our business now and what's it really costing us? And I think when you really start to measure the cost of not having the talent and lowering the bar and kind of accepting, we all talk about, the norm these days. And so, in the business world, accepting that new norm of just it's just not out there. We can't solve it. I would challenge that and say that you just have to. Right now, there are solutions. We've created a solution for this reason, and I think you can solve it. And you really need to look at it not so much as a cost, but as an investment in the growth of your company.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. So, and a great way to end our conversation here today. So we hope you found this discussion helpful, some of these points helpful, particularly with respect to your skilled labor challenge that you and many others are facing today. We want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to join us here on the Skillwork Forum. If you have any questions or want to follow up with Brett or I or any of our staff, feel free to reach out to us at skillwork.com. That's our website, and there's multiple ways you can reach us through that. Until then, have a great day.